The last song in the snow. The wind screamed across the white land. Snowflakes danced in the cold air, falling gently on the back of the alien woman as she knelt on the frozen ground. Her body shook, not from fear, but from the bitter cold. Her arms were wrapped tightly around her small child. The baby was silent, too silent. She whispered her child's name softly, her voice cracking. "Ziri." The child didn't respond. His eyes were half closed. His skin, once warm and glowing, was now pale and dull. The alien woman looked up at the gray sky. No sun. No stars. Just endless clouds. Her lips trembled and she began to sing. A lullaby. It was a song from her home planet, soft and slow. Her people sang it to calm babies in warm nests. But here she sang it on ice, her voice breaking, her heart full of sorrow. This was not a song of hope. It was a goodbye. 3 days ago, she had escaped the war zone. Her village had burned. Her mate had died protecting them. She had run with Ziri in her arms, running through the forests, then through the mountains, then into this snowy land. No food, no map, just fear, just love. Now, she could run no more. Ziri's breaths were shallow. The cold was taking him, and soon it would take her too. She pressed her forehead to his. "I'm sorry, my child," she whispered. "Mama tried." She sang the last part of the lullaby, her voice thin like mist. Then, crunch. Her ears twitched. The snow behind her moved. She froze. Was it a beast? A soldier? Her enemies? Slowly she turned her head. Footsteps. Heavy ones. Coming closer. Not running, walking. She clutched her child tighter and stood. Her legs shook. She looked around. Nothing but snow and white trees. Then, a shape appeared. Tall. 2 legs, broad shoulders, a human. He was wrapped in a thick black coat, snow dusting his boots. He held something in his hands, a large bag. His face was hidden behind a scarf and goggles. He stopped a few steps away. The alien woman hissed low, warning him. "Stay back," she shouted in her language. The human didn't move. He slowly raised one hand to show he held no weapon. With his other hand, he reached into his bag and pulled something out. A blanket. A thick, warm, gray blanket. Then came another thing, a heat pack. He cracked it and it began to glow. She didn't understand his words. He said something in his soft human tongue, but she couldn't make out the meaning. Still, his body language was clear. He was not here to hurt her. The mother looked at her child. Ziri's fingers were turning blue. She looked at the human again, knelt down, placing the blanket and heat pack gently on the snow, then stepped back. No sudden moves. He waited. Slowly, very slowly, she stepped forward. She picked up the items. Warmth. Real warmth. She wrapped the blanket around Ziri, then herself. The heat pack she tucked near her baby's chest. Ziri let out a small, weak cough. The first sound in hours. Tears rolled down her face. She turned back to the human. "Why?" she asked in her tongue. "Why help?" Of course he didn't understand. But he smiled slightly, just enough to show peace. Then he pointed behind him toward the hills. "Shelter," he said. She didn't know the word, but she followed his finger. Far away she saw a dark shape in the snow, a small metal shelter. Her body was weak, but if he could help carry Ziri. She looked at him again, still unsure, still afraid. Then Ziri whimpered. That was enough. She took one step toward the human. He nodded and walked slowly beside her. When she could not walk anymore, he took Ziri in his arms gently. The baby was light. Too light. She didn't stop him. Together, the alien mother and the human disappeared into the snowstorm. Behind them, the wind blew harder, but the lullaby still echoed in the air, soft and haunting. No longer a final goodbye, but a fragile hope. Man from the warmth, the cold still surrounded them, but something had changed. The human's arms were strong. He held the alien child close to his chest, covering him with part of his thick coat. His steps were slow but steady. The alien mother walked beside him, holding her child's tiny hand as she watched the human's every move. She didn't know him. She didn't trust him. But she had no choice. Every step through the snow felt heavy. Her legs were weak. Her fingers were numb. But the man walked with purpose, like he had walked this path many times. Then she saw it. A metal structure half buried. In the snow, a small shelter with a solar panel on top covered in frost. The human stopped in front of it, placed the child gently on a soft patch of snow, and pressed his gloved hand against a scanner on the door. Beep. The door opened with a quiet hiss. Warm air flowed out. The alien woman gasped. Her skin, used to the cold for so long, tingled at the sudden heat. The man lifted the child again and stepped inside. She followed quickly, her eyes wide. Inside, the shelter was simple. A heater hummed softly. A small bed, a lamp, metal shelves, and best of all, warmth. Glorious warmth. The man carefully laid the child on the bed, placing the heat pack under his chest. Then he opened a box and pulled out something soft, a steaming pouch of food. He turned to the mother and offered it to her. She didn't move. "Eat," he said gently. She stared at him, unsure. Then her stomach growled, loudly. The human smiled, just a little. She took the food with shaking hands. It was salty, strange, but warm. She swallowed fast. The man watched her. His eyes were kind but tired. Then he picked up a small scanner and waved it over the child's body. Beep. The device showed strange symbols. He studied them carefully. His face grew serious. Ziri's pulse was weak. He had a fever. And if nothing was done soon... The man opened another box and pulled out a small vial. He showed it to the mother. She backed away. He quickly raised his free hand to calm her. Then, he pointed to the vial, then to the child, then made a motion, like growing strong. She didn't understand the words, but she understood the meaning. He wanted to help. Still, she hesitated. What if it hurt Ziri? But her child coughed again, weaker this time. Her heart broke. She nodded once. The man knelt, pressed the vial gently into a small device, and injected a tiny dose into the child's shoulder. Ziri flinched, but didn't cry. Aisha, mother bit her lip, holding her breath. Minutes passed. Then Ziri let out a slow sigh, and his chest began to rise and fall with a more even rhythm. The mother blinked fast. He's breathing better. The man nodded as if he knew. Later, the human lit a small light and brought out a blanket. He placed it over her shoulders. It was heavy and warm. She looked up at him again. Who was this man? He had no reason to help her. She was not from his world. She could not even speak his tongue. Still, he helped. Outside, the wind howled like ghosts. She reached forward and touched the edge of his sleeve lightly. "Thank you," she whispered. The man looked confused for a moment, but then he smiled. He didn't need to understand the words. He felt the meaning. The child slept soundly now, his tiny hands wrapped in the blanket. His mother sat beside him, her eyes full of tears and questions. The human sat in a corner eating something from a small metal box. Then, a sound. Tick. Tick. The man froze. He stood quickly and turned off the light. He rushed to a screen on the wall. Red dots blinked on a map. They were not alone. He turned to the alien woman. His voice was low but urgent. "Someone's out there." She felt her heart stop. "Who?" He pointed to the screen, then to the gun leaning near the door. "Bad people." The mother stood slowly. She looked at her child, then at the man. She had just found hope again. Now it was in danger. She took a deep breath and looked at him. "Then we fight," she said, though he didn't understand, but he saw the look in her eyes and he nodded. They followed us. The alarm light kept blinking. Red. 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 The human stared at the small screen inside the shelter. 3 red dots, moving slowly, getting closer. Whoever or whatever was out there wasn't lost. They were tracking. The alien mother stood near the bed, holding her baby close again. Ziri had just begun to breathe better. His body felt warm, but his sleep was light. Every small sound made him stir. She looked at the human. His jaw was tight, his eyes full of thought and fear, not for himself, but for them. Outside, the wind howled like something angry. Ice slapped against the shelter walls. But that wasn't the danger. The danger had feet. "We leave," the man finally said. The alien woman didn't understand the words, but she understood his body. His hand pointed to the screen, then to her, then to the child. "Too dangerous here," he said. She watched as he quickly packed a small bag, food packs, heat sticks, tools, the vial box. Then he picked up the weapon, long, metal, with blinking, blue lights. He handed her a tiny round tracker, then made a motion with his hand. "Keep it close." Her fingers curled around it. He motioned toward the back wall. She hadn't noticed the trapdoor before. It slid open with a hiss. A dark tunnel, hidden, safe. She followed him in. The tunnel was narrow and icy. Metal walls, old wiring, small lights on the ceiling. Her boots slid on patches of frozen floor, but the human held out a hand and helped her walk. Ziri stayed asleep against her chest. They moved fast. Quiet. Every now and then, the human paused, turned his head, and listened. The tunnel wasn't empty. Something was down there. A soft growl echoed. From behind them, the woman froze. The human raised his hand, signaling, "Stop." He pulled out a small mirror, angled it behind them, and cursed softly under his breath. She leaned in, 2 shadows, fast, silent, coming closer. She clutched her child and whispered, "Please. Not now." The human pulled her behind a broken wall, told her to stay. She nodded, holding Ziri tightly. Then he stepped out. His gun hummed. The growls turned to snarls. A blur moved through the tunnel, tall, thin, with glowing red eyes. Not human, not like her either, something worse, a hunter. The alien woman peeked out just as blue light flashed. Zizzuzed! A burst of energy shot from the human's gun. The creature screamed. The second one leaped forward. The human rolled to the side and fired again. It dropped. Smoke rose. The tunnel fell silent again. The human returned, panting. His coat was scratched. A small cut on his face bled down to his chin. But he smiled faintly as if to say, "It's okay now." The mother looked at the creatures. They weren't soldiers. They were bounty trackers, paid to catch runaways like her. She swallowed hard. "They want my son," she whispered. "Not me. Him." She had known since the day she escaped. Ziri was special. His blood could cure the disease spreading on their old planet. But at what cost? They didn't want to save him. They wanted to use him. The tunnel led to an old transport shed hidden in the rocks. A small vehicle sat inside, half buried in snow, but still working. The human knocked ice off the front, started the engine, and waved her in. She climbed into the seat beside him, heart racing. She had no idea where they were going, but she trusted him now. Not with words, but with his actions. The vehicle rumbled and sped into the snowy hills, leaving the bodies behind. Hours passed. The sun never rose in this land, but the sky grew lighter. The storm had eased. Still, the cold was sharp and the silence heavy. The human finally stopped near a cliff. Below them, a hidden valley. He pointed. Down there, a small station. Lights, towers, smoke, life. He said one word, safe. The mother stared. It looked like hope, but something gnawed at her heart. Why was he helping so much? Why risk his life? She turned to him. Why me? She asked in her soft voice. He looked at her, confused again. Then he pulled something from his pocket. Photograph. It showed a human woman holding a baby. The human's hand touched the picture. His eyes softened. Gone, he said quietly. The alien woman understood. He had lost someone, and now he couldn't save them. But he could save her. Together they started walking down the snowy path. Her child stirred, opening his eyes at last. He looked at the human and gave a weak smile, for the first time in days. The mother smiled too. But far behind them, unseen in the snow, another tracker's eye opened. They weren't safe yet. Frozen hunters. Snow fell without sound. But danger moved without mercy. From a distance, the white hills looked peaceful. But under the snow, death waited. 3 new figures moved through the frozen forest, silent, fast, sharp-eyed. They were not human. They were not kind. They were contract killers, sent to retrieve a rare alien child, alive. They didn't care who else had to die. High above a frozen cliff, the alien mother leaned against a rock, her arms wrapped tightly around Ziri, who was sleeping again. His breathing was slow but steady. Beside her, the human crouched with a pair of binoculars. He scanned the valley below, still far, still time, but not much. He clicked his device. The map showed a thin green line leading to a human outpost. 1 hour, he whispered to himself. He turned to the alien mother and pointed ahead. Almost there, he said with a hopeful smile. She didn't understand the words, but she nodded. Her trust had grown, but so had the danger behind them. Halfway. Down the slope, the snow turned harder. Their boots crunched loudly, echoing across the cold silence. Too loud. Too late. The first shot came without warning. Bang! The snow beside the human exploded. He grabbed the mother and child, pulling them. Behind a fallen log, gunfire, fast, echoing. The woman covered Ziri's ears. The baby whimpered, afraid. The human checked his weapon, only a few charges left. He peeked over the log and saw them. 3 black-armored hunters. Cold eyes, frozen masks, long-range rifles. They were trained for this, not to kill, to capture, and they were here for Ziri. The human whispered fast words into a small mic. Code 9, emergency extraction. 1 adult, 1 child. Sending beacon now. He threw a flare toward the sky. Red smoke rose like a signal of blood. He turned to the alien woman. You run, he said. You take him and run. She shook her head. Not without you. He placed his hand on her arm. I will stop them. She didn't know the words, but she felt the meaning. A goodbye. She grabbed Ziri and ran. The baby's tiny fingers clutched her coat. Her legs moved faster than ever before. She didn't look back. Not until she heard it. The sound of war. The human stood in the open, firing carefully. 1 hunter dropped. A perfect shot. But the others circled fast, using smoke grenades. White mist filled the air. A bullet grazed his leg. He fell to one knee, gritting his teeth. Then he smiled. He pulled out a small metal orb and tossed it behind him. Boom! A wall of fire shot upward, bright and loud, blocking the hunters for just a few seconds. But that was all he needed. He limped after the alien mother, shouting into his mic. Target moved west. I'm trailing. Keep the door open. In the valley, below, hidden behind frost-covered rocks, a camouflaged hangar door slid open. A rescue shuttle waited inside. Inside, a young human woman at the controls yelled into her radio. I see him. Come on, old man. The mother reached the hangar with her last breath. Ziri was awake now, eyes wide with fear. He looked up at her. Mama? She kissed his head. Almost safe, my love. The soldiers inside waved her in. But she didn't enter. She turned and looked back. He wasn't there. Gunshots echoed again. Far. Behind, she saw him. bleeding, stumbling, but still fighting. One hunter tackled him from behind. She screamed. The baby cried. The human woman on the shuttle ran out with a rifle and opened fire. More soldiers joined in. Together they pulled the human into safety. The doors slammed shut. Inside, alarms blared. The engines roared. They were lifting off. The alien mother sat beside him holding his hand. He coughed. His blood stained her fingers. "Don't die," she whispered. He opened one eye. "Not today," he said softly. Then he looked at Ziri. The child smiled at him. The man smiled back. Outside, the valley returned to silence. But in the snow, the last hunter stood up from the ground, watching the shuttle vanish into the sky. He tapped a device on his wrist. "Target escaped," he said, coldly, "but we're not done." He didn't return. The shuttle flew through the frozen sky, its engines shaking from the cold wind. Inside, warmth returned, but peace did not. The alien mother sat beside the human, who now lay still on a medical bed. His eyes were closed. His arm was bandaged. Blood stained the side of his shirt. Ziri sat quietly in her lap, no longer crying, only watching the human man with wide, curious eyes. "He helped us," the mother whispered. "He saved you." The baby touched the man's hand, but the human didn't move. A soft beep echoed from the wall screen. The voice of the female pilot came through. "We'll reach the safe zone in 10 minutes. Stay strong." The alien mother looked at the human's face again. He looked cold, even inside warmth. His skin was pale. His breathing, shallow. She didn't know his name. She didn't know why he risked his life for her child. But she knew this. If he didn't wake up, a part of her heart would never heal. The shuttle landed in a hidden base deep in the snowlands. Thick walls, warm lights, human soldiers, medical bots. This was a human outpost. As the door opened, the mother stepped out carrying Ziri. She turned to look back, but they were already lifting the human onto a stretcher. "Don't leave him," she said quickly. One medic nodded. "He's one of us, we won't." But her chest felt heavy. Something was wrong. 2 hours passed. She waited in a room with soft walls and food she didn't recognize. Ziri played on a bed beside her. She stared at the door, waiting. Every time it opened, she looked up. But it was never him. A soldier came in and handed her a small bag. Inside were her old clothes, her mother's broken necklace, and the tracker. She held it tight. It had saved her. It had saved her child. But it had come from him. The hours became a full day. No word, no footsteps, only silence. That night, she sang the same lullaby again, but not as a goodbye. This time it was a prayer, a call through the stars. She wished the man who had appeared in the snow could hear it, wherever he was. The next morning she walked into the medical bay. "I want to see him," she told the guard. He hesitated, then nodded. She was taken to a quiet room. Inside, the human man lay in a clear healing pod. Machines blinked. A mask covered his mouth. His eyes were still shut. She pressed her hand to the glass. He didn't move. She wanted to scream, to shake the pod, to demand answers, but all she did was whisper, "Please, come back." Ziri placed his hand on the glass beside hers. "Friend," the baby said softly. The mother looked at her son. He had never called anyone that before. That evening, she was moved to a small living room in the base. She sat near the window, watching snow fall again. This time she was not out in it, but she was still cold inside. Then, a knock. She turned fast. The door opened. A soldier stepped in, wearing his coat. Her breath caught. For 1 second, she feared the worst. "He told me to give this to you," the soldier said quietly. He handed her a small folded note. The paper was wrinkled. There was a drop of dried blood on the corner. She opened it. The writing was shaky but clear. If I don't wake up, tell the boy I believed in him. Tell you. I'm glad I turned around that day. You sang to him. But you saved me too. Her eyes burned with tears. She held the note close to her chest, falling to her knees. Ziri tugged at her sleeve. Mama, why are you crying? She hugged him tight. Because good people don't always stay, she said softly. But sometimes they leave behind hope. She didn't sleep that night. She stayed beside the healing pod, just waiting. At sunrise, the pod beeped. Once, twice. Then the human's fingers twitched. His head turned slightly. His lips moved. She rushed to the side. He opened one eye. She laughed, a sound full of joy and relief and disbelief. You came back, she whispered. He blinked slowly. You didn't run, he said weakly. She smiled. I did. But I waited too. The stranger in his coat. The snowstorm had passed, but something colder remained in her heart. The human still rested in the healing. Pod, his eyes shut again. The machine said he would survive, but healing took time. Too much time. The alien mother walked through the quiet halls of the base, holding Ziri close. The child slept peacefully, safe for the first time in many moons. His little hand clutched her shirt, but her own hands? They trembled. She had no plan, no home. No people left. The only person she trusted was behind glass. Silent. She looked down at the small tracker the human had given her. It blinked once every few seconds. Still active. Still connected to him. She whispered, Please come back. We still need you. Hours later, the base doors opened. Snow blew in, and a man entered. At first, she thought it was him. He wore the same thick coat, same scarf, same boots. But as he stepped into the light, her heart dropped. It was not him. He was younger, taller, dark eyes, sharp jaw, and a voice colder than the outside air. He looked directly at her. You're the alien woman he saved? He asked in firm English. She didn't understand, but the tone chilled her. A soldier nearby stepped forward. This is Captain Reese. He's here for the report. The captain looked around unimpressed. His eyes paused on Ziri. That's the child? The mother pulled Ziri closer. The captain stepped toward her slowly. He saved you both. Risked everything, he said, more to himself than her. But why? Later, she sat in a meeting room surrounded by soldiers and machines that translated basic words. Captain Reese sat across from her, cold, professional. He disobeyed orders, the captain said. Went off mission, protected you. The translator repeated the words for her in her language. She looked up. He saved my baby. The captain narrowed his eyes. And now we have a problem. She frowned. You're not supposed to be here. You're not registered. You're not a citizen. And the child, he tapped a file. The child's blood carries something unusual. Her stomach dropped. What do you want from us? She asked. Reese didn't answer. Instead, he placed a collar on the table. Cold. Steel. Locked. We can protect you, he said. But you must agree to follow our terms. She stared at the collar. I'm not your pet, she said sharply. He smiled, but there was no kindness in it. No, but you're not free either. That night she ran back to the medical bay. Tears stung her eyes. She stood over the pod, shaking. Wake up, she begged the human. I don't know what to do. Ziri clung to her leg. Mama, why are they mean? She knelt and hugged him. Because they want to own us, like we're not people. Behind her, the pod beeped again. A small sound escaped the human's lips. She turned fast. His hand lifted. His voice, weak but clear. I told you. No collars. She gasped. You're awake, he smiled faintly. I heard you yelling. She laughed and cried at once. They want to keep us like prisoners. He tried to sit up. Pain stopped him. Then we don't stay, he said. She stared. Run again? He nodded slowly. One more time. The next morning, Reese entered the medical bay with 2 guards. "You're awake," he said flatly. "Good. You'll answer some questions." The human sat up, slow but steady. "I already gave my answer. You don't own them." Reese threw the file on the table. "She's a fugitive. That child is a key to something powerful. You're risking—" "I know exactly what I'm risking," the human said calmly. "I fought for this base. I bled for it." He looked at the woman. "And I'll do it again." Reese clenched his jaw. "Then you're done here." The human smiled. "Yeah, I am." 2 nights later, a quiet shuttle rose into the snow-filled sky. Inside it, the alien mother held her child. Her eyes never left the human's face. He was still, weak but awake. Alive. "You should have let them keep me," she said softly. He looked at her. "They tried to collar you like an animal." "I was ready to give up," she whispered. He leaned his head back. "Good thing I wasn't." Siri giggled beside them. The human looked at the boy. "You're going to change everything," he said. Then he reached into his pocket and handed Ziri the old tracker. "This kept you safe once," he said. "Now you keep her safe." In the dark, cold universe, 3 broken souls flew into the unknown, but together, and that made all the difference. The fire in the snow fell again, not in a storm, but gently, like feathers drifting from the sky. A small campfire flickered under the shelter of a rocky cliff. Its warm light danced across the alien mother's face as she sat beside it, arms wrapped around Ziri. The child was laughing softly, chasing tiny sparks that rose into the air. Across from them, the human sat with a blanket over his shoulders. His body was still healing. Every movement showed pain. But his eyes were full of peace, peace they had fought for, peace they had run toward again and again. Now they had found it. For a little while, the hidden valley below them wasn't on any map. It belonged to no empire. It was quiet, free, and untouched by war. The human had brought them there using old codes, bypassing patrols and scanners. Even Captain Reese wouldn't find them here. Yet, the human stared into the fire, quiet. The alien woman watched him closely. "You're thinking again," she said softly. He looked at her and smiled. "Always." She tilted her head. "What about," he pointed at the sky, "that someone out there still wants your child?" Her smile faded. "I know." Ziri climbed into her lap, tired from playing. His skin was brighter now, his strength returning, but his blood still held secrets, and someone, somewhere, still wanted to use him. That night, the human showed her a small case. Inside were data chips, a scanner, and an old communicator. "These hold proof," he said. "About what your people did, about the disease, about Ziri?" "Proof?" she asked. He nodded. "Proof that he's not a weapon. He's the cure, but only if he grows free." She understood now. This wasn't just about survival. This was about the future. The next morning they heard it, a sound like thunder. Ziri sat, up fast. "What's that?" The human stood, eyes sharp. "A ship, coming fast. Not theirs." The mother held Ziri tight. "Run?" she asked quickly. The human shook his head. Too late. The ship landed in the clearing below, kicking up snow and ash. The side opened and a dozen figures stepped out. Black armor, silver guns. At the front, Captain Reese. He looked up the hill and saw them. He smiled. "Stay behind me," the human said calmly. He raised his old weapon. Only a few charges left. The mother grabbed a sharp stone. She had no gun, but she would not lose her child, not again. Ziri grabbed her sleeve. "Mama, I'm scared." She kissed his head. "Be brave." Reese stepped closer, his voice cold through the speaker. "You had your chance, soldier. Hand over the boy." The human didn't blink. "No. He's a key to saving billions." The mother stepped forward, voice strong. No, he's my son. Not your science. Not your cure. Reese raised his hand. His men aimed. The human whispered, "Get ready to run." But before the order could be given, boom. The ground behind Reese exploded, smoke, screams. Out from the cliffs came resistance fighters, humans, aliens, survivors who believed in freedom. The human had called them days ago. Quietly, secretly. He smiled. Didn't come without backup. A short battle followed. Loud, bright, full of fire and fury. But it ended fast. The black-armored men were trained to capture, not survive a fight. Reese was the last to fall, shot in the shoulder, pinned under debris. He looked up as the mother stood over him, Ziri in her arms. "You don't understand," he hissed. "He's more than just a child." She nodded. "I know." Then she walked away. Later, the fire burned again. This time, it wasn't for warmth. It was for freedom. They watched Reese's ship burn from the hillside. The mother held Ziri close as the sun began to rise, painting the snow in gold and pink. The human sat beside her, silent. Ziri pointed to the sky. "What now?" The mother smiled. "Now we live." And in that quiet moment, with no chains, no trackers, and no one chasing them, they were finally free, together, forever.